Hello, I'm a new mom in my 30s. I gave birth recently and have been having happy days raising a child. I got divorced right before giving birth, so I'm currently living as a single mother. When I said I was getting divorced, people tried to stop me. They understand. I was a pregnant woman with only a few days to give birth, and my husband and I were known to be lovebirds. I'm sure it was a shock. My colleague introduced my husband to me. They were high school friends but lost contact after going to different universities. Then they accidentally reunited in Australia, where they went to study and have kept in touch until now. I'm sure it was a shock. My colleague didn't mean to introduce him to me at first. Somehow we had a drink together, and my husband and I became fond of each other while we were tipsy. That day was the day I lost a project I had put everything into for 2 months. My colleague must have felt sorry for me. She bought me expensive drinks, recognizing my hard work. It was my first time drinking high-proof whiskey, so I got drunk fast and quickly fell asleep when my colleague went to the restroom. As we had just started to drink, expensive drinks were left as new. So my colleague called her friend, and the friend was my husband. I think I slept for a while. When I woke up, I found myself covered with a man's suit jacket. "Are you okay?" she said. "It was pretty cold. I covered you up so you won't catch a cold." I've never seen such a sweet guy. He was very different from the guys I've met, particularly from my brother. My brother is 3 years older than me and was once a big shot called the glory of the family. He graduated high school when he was 16 and went to MIT right after. No one doubted his shining future then. But you never know. After he returned from his military service, he failed his class and eventually dropped out of school. That's when my brother's dark days began. My dad cut off all aid to my brother and confiscated all the sports cars and luxury watches that he had bought for him as a congratulatory gift for university entrance. My mom gave him some money, but she couldn't after my dad found out about it. So I was all my brother had, and it must have been killing him to ask for money from me, whom he had been bullying all his life. But what choice did he have? He was never thankful. Instead, he bullied me whenever he had a chance. He was over 30 and still acted like a child, farting in my face. I farted as a joke. He often came into my room and censored my clothes, saying that the skirt was too short or my top was showing too much. He also complained that my makeup was too thick like a stripper. He did everything I hated. This is not all. He always said a girl shouldn't stand against her older brother. He is my all-time enemy, not a brother. I think he learned his patriarchal attitude from my dad. My dad also always said, "How dare a woman go against a man's decision?" Children grow up looking at their father's back. It was only natural that my brother resembled his father's tone. For me, it was inevitable to fall in love with my husband, who was very different from my brother. We quickly started flirting. Thus, a month later, we began dating and I told my colleague about it. But while she congratulated me, she looked quite disappointed. We were very close, like sisters, so I was a bit disappointed at her response. I understood why she acted that way later on, though. My husband and I dated for a year and decided to marry. We were joking around that the marriage would save our dating expenses. And finally, it was the day my fiancé met my parents to ask for their blessings. My brother was busy then as he began a startup with his friends, but surprisingly, he came home on time that day. I guess he wanted to be a big brother after all. My parents liked my fiancé very much, and the investigation began. They asked him what his parents do, how many siblings he has, and all that. But my brother just ate dinner without saying a word. To be honest, I was disappointed. So when my fiancé left, I went into my brother's room and scolded him. "You're usually so chatty. Why didn't you say a word today? Were you so quiet because my fiancé is so much better than you?" As being very sarcastic on purpose, but my brother never responded. He just told me to get out as he's tired. I should have left then, but I ended up saying things I should have not. "Are you afraid I might cut you off when I'm married? Tell me, aren't you..." "Right, Alex Gowers, beg Dad and work at his company. Why are you being so stubborn? I heard you're taking Mom's money for your venture business. Get your shit together. Not everyone can succeed in business. Don't you feel ashamed getting pocket money from your younger sister when you're over 30? And all of a sudden, my brother stood up. Then he walked toward me. I stepped back a little. I thought he was going to throw a punch at me or something, but he took out a keyring from his drawer and hung it on my cell phone. I was dumbfounded, so I just looked at him.
"Oh, I'm sorry, I'm no help to you, even though I'm your only big brother. Um,
I promise I'll pay you back 100 times. No, 1,000 times more when my business succeeds." Then he just went back to his bed and lay down. Seeing him like that, I became emotional. I felt it was unfair that I lived under my brother's influence all those years. I took a lot of credit myself for giving him pocket money, and I gave him a hard time with harsh words just now. But I guess he was feeling wrong about not being able to be a big brother to me. I'm not a child. I don't need this. In case you forgot, I don't need you to do anything for me to get married. Don't worry about me, worry about yourself. Pretending nothing had happened, I rushed out of his room. I thought I was going to cry if I stayed longer. Later, my fiancé and I visited my parents-in-law to ask for their blessings. Both parents gave us their blessings, and we began to prepare for the wedding. I gave my colleague an invitation to the wedding. She was surprised at our sudden decision. "Are you sure? Don't blame me later." I told her I won't, but still, she seemed somewhat uncomfortable. It was a bit awkward to see her like that, but honestly, I was too busy with the wedding preparation. Everyone has little fights when preparing for the wedding, and so did we. The little things we didn't care so much about when we were dating began to get on each other's nerves. The thing that bugged me the most was the financial matters. But when we were dating, we opened a joint account and shared the cost equally. Now, as we are getting married, I was trying to close the account. Then an unbelievable incident happened. We had a little over $1,000. I sent half to my boyfriend's account. Then he called me, saying that my calculation was wrong. He demanded $18 more. He sounded frustrated. "It's not a big amount. I have no problem. But you know, we're getting married, not breaking up. Does he have to be so annoyed about this?" I was going to let it go, but then I couldn't hold it in. I asked him what was wrong. Then he told me he had a separate notebook in which he recorded all the date expenses. He showed me the list and wow, I was shocked. I know he likes to be exact, but I didn't know he was this much. To be exact myself, he was a cheapskate. The list goes like this. When we ate at a cafe, we had coffee and little cakes. And the prices of the cakes he had and I had could be different, right? He calculated every penny, planning to take the difference from the accounts when the time came. I mean, I don't want to say this, but he was a real miser. It made me even wonder if it was okay to marry him. I was worried that we might fight over pennies. Anyways, I gave him the $18 as he requested and we closed the account. He wasn't any different from when we were preparing for the wedding. What? You want me to pay half of the house? Yes. Why are you so surprised? It's unfair for me to pay for the whole thing as we'll be living together in it. He's not wrong, even though it was a bit different from social norms. So I just agreed. I told my parents that my fiancé and I would each pay for exactly half of everything, including the wedding hall, invitation letters, etc. My parents thought it was absurd as it was surely unusual. I convinced my parents that it was a generation difference. They were still skeptical, but they followed my decision. So we budgeted a wedding equally. We didn't have much conflict after that. I got pregnant a year after the wedding. I didn't quit my job right away even though I was pregnant. But as time passed, my belly got bigger, so I couldn't keep going to work when I had 2 months until delivery. I submitted a leave of absence to work. I didn't think much about it as I had already talked with my husband and childbirth was more important than anything else. But one day, an incident broke out. My husband was late, so I made dinner and set the table. He came home right then. I told him to join me if he hadn't eaten yet. But then he took my dish away from my hands. I looked at him, wondering what he was doing. I thought he was fooling around. But he said, "Honey, you didn't work for this. This is food that I bought with the money I earned. I thought you'd be different as you are from a wealthy family, but you're just like others. Why can't people tell the difference between mine and yours?" I thought I heard something wrong. "Honey, what did you just say?" I asked. "Are you serious?" He put my dish in the sink and stared at me with cold eyes. I could tell he was not joking. He pushed my shoulders and said, "Do you think of me as your maid or slave? How can you even imagine living off the money I earn while you rest at home? While you rest at home and you don't even look sorry, you should be ashamed of yourself. Hey, isn't that too much? Am I not working because I don't want to? I can't work because I'm in my full term. And isn't this baby also yours? It's your baby you're talking about. How can you say such things? I know you're stingy, but I didn't know you could get so cheap like this." I almost cried from the shock. "Are you a fool? Do you think I'm talking about you working? Don't you know your parents are rich? If you can't earn any money, can't you just ask your parents? Your dad made a company for your pathetic brother and cares nothing about you who has a baby. And you're still okay with it. How long are you going to let your brother take everything? Don't just watch TV and eat. Go take what you deserve." Who said that? Who said my dad made a company for my brother? He built it with his friends. And don't sweat it. I have no interest in my dad's money. Why would I want that money when I can make enough for myself? My dad said he would donate all his money later. Get real. My husband got angry and went crazy, saying for whose good he is donating the money. I could tell that this man was married not to me, but for my family's money. I lost all my affection. So what you wanted was my dad's money. You should have told me earlier. Then I wouldn't have married you. What's the point? You're disgusting. I can't live with you anymore. Let's get divorced. I got up, holding my cell phone. As I was heading to my room, I fainted. At that moment, I felt something hit my head. When I woke up, my husband was looking at me, worried. I asked him what had happened. He said a vase fell from a shelf and I fainted as it hit my head. My head was pretty swollen. My husband seemed shocked and he almost cried. Honey, are you okay? Are you hurt? I was scared that you were severely hurt. I'm sorry. I've been under a lot of stress lately. I said something that I didn't mean. I must have been crazy. Please forgive me. Honor, I promise I'll be good now. We just fought like we would kill each other, but seeing my husband crying for me made me soften up a little. So I decided to forgive him for once. My husband went into the kitchen saying he'll make dinner tonight, and I was sitting on a couch watching TV. Then the doorbell rang loudly. I wondered who it could be at this late hour, and it was my brother. As soon as the front door opened, he came in and threw a punch at my husband. It happened before I could stop him. Hey, what the hell? Are you crazy? I took my brother away from my husband. My brother was still angry. My husband was puzzled and his cheek was swollen red. Hey, what's the matter? Why did you just hit me? What have I ever done to you? You don't know what you did. Okay then, let me show you why. My brother took out his cell phone and showed him a video clip. It was when I was knocked down by a cup. But unlike what my husband told me, the cup didn't fall off the shelf, but my husband hit me with a cup from behind. You still don't know what you've done? I'm my parents, or I never even touched her hair. How dare you hit my sister? And you've done nothing wrong? You piece of garbage. I don't need to talk to a trash like you. I already called the police, so let's go to the police station and see what you've done. Surely, go Pat. He doesn't deserve you. Then my husband showed his real self. What have I done so wrong? I told you not to mess up with me? A son-in-law is also a son. Your dad should leave you some money, not donating everything. Isn't he insane? If you have any money to spare, give it to me. Give it to me who's trying my ass off to live. Do you think I'm married because I like her? A clueless, immature girl. I didn't do anything wrong. It's all your parents' fault who left this dumb girl to me and didn't pay me enough. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I slapped my husband. I just couldn't take it anymore. How dare you talk about my parents like that? You have nothing wrong with your body. You should work hard to make money, not ask for it. I will not let it slide today. Like you said, clueless and immature me will show you what the real world is like. I yelled my guts out and fainted again. I woke up at the hospital. My brother was standing by my bed. He told me what really happened last night. though to the keyring he gave me before I married was the safety cam that his company was developing. My brother saw the situation where my husband assaulted me through the camera and ran to my house. Even after I fainted, my husband acted like a madman. He was eventually taken away by the police. I sued my husband with the evidence from the camera with assault and injury. And see, according to my lawyer, as he assaulted me during my full term, he could get a prison sentence depending on the situation. Later, my colleague told me that my husband was a frequent dating violence offender. While studying in Australia, he was dating my colleague's roommate, and he had been investigated for habitually wielding violence. After all, he had to return to the US, unable to finish his study. At first, he was on good terms with his ex-girlfriend. However, as the relationship deepened, he became obsessed with money. So they often quarreled over money, and he eventually began to use violence. And the next day, he offered a gift and begged for forgiveness. And as it repeated, the intensity of the assault became stronger. It was why my colleague was upset when I told her I was dating him. She was worried and was looking for a good moment to tell me, but she was relieved as nothing happened over time. Hastings, the colleague, apologized, saying she should have told me earlier, so I wouldn't have to go through such a situation. I just gave birth. She's a 3.2 kg daughter. Fortunately, everything went smoothly and both she and I were fine. My brother is now a doting uncle. He's been saying that my daughter looks just like him. I am still in a legal fight with my husband, but I'm not worried as I would get custody and parental rights without any problems. Still, I want the lawsuit to be over as soon as possible and get away from my husband completely. I still have nightmares of that day. Who knew I would get sick and tired of him, whom I loved so much when we were dating? By the way, my dad recognized my brother and invested big money into his project. My brother said he was more glad to save me with what he created than receive a big investment. I can never forget the day my brother, who used to bother me so much, was covered in tears and stood by my bed. As everyone says, blood is thicker than water. Keep it up, brother. Thank you for listening to my long story. Please leave your words of support and wise advice in the comment section. Likes and subscriptions help me a lot. Have a wonderful day, everyone.